So interestingly enough, if you look at some of these MVP favorites, you really have to think about what the odds makers were thinking when they set these lines. So Patrick Mahomes, they're thinking that people are going to tell themselves that this is a guy who has been basically the best quarterback since he stepped into the NFL, and he's going to continue on that trajectory, even without his top weapon of the last couple of years in Tyreek Hill, with Tyreek Hill moving on to the Dolphins. The third best odds that I see here are Tom Brady at plus 800. The story of the book here is telling that Tom Brady keeps it up for another year. This is a guy who, at age 43 last year, led the NFL in passing yards, and he continues to dominate with that amazing skill group that they have down in Tampa. Next up, we have Rodgers at plus 900. I think there's an easy sell there. This is a guy who's won 2 straight MVPs. Josh Allen at our top odds at plus 600. I think a lot of people, myself included, are selling themselves on the Bills and the version of the story where Josh Allen takes another leap and takes his Bills team to utter domination from front to back, and this team ends up winning the Super Bowl atop a Josh Allen-led MVP campaign. Next up, we have Justin Herbert at plus 900 with the same odds here as Aaron Rodgers. And I want to key in on these guys because I think this is really where we should be looking for MVP bets. I want to give out sort of a favorite, a middle tier pick, and then a long shot on all of these award picks. And the first of those, at least for MVP, is going to be Josh Allen. I'd like to put a relatively hefty wager in on Josh Allen to win MVP at plus 600 because I think that if anyone's going to win it this year, everything lines up for Josh Allen. The Bills are going to be probably the best team in the NFL this year. Everything lends itself to that. That defense coming back, Stephon Diggs coming back, those skill players, even guys like Dawson Knox taking a leap last year. They bring in Gabriel Davis, takes another step, a guy they drafted a couple years ago. He's something like second in the NFL in targets from his draft class, despite playing not very many snaps over the last 2 years. I believe in the Bills this year. That's why I can tell myself a story in which Josh Allen finishes as MVP at plus 600. One thing I want to briefly mention before we really dig into some of these props is the idea that when you're assessing player and team props, sometimes it's good to double, triple, or quadruple down on a team if you feel that you have a good read on that team. If you think the Bills have a shot at just kicking the shit out of everyone and winning the Super Bowl, then there's value to be had here in throwing money on Josh Allen to win MVP, throwing money on a guy like Stephon Diggs, who we'll mention a little bit later, to win Offensive Player of the Year, throwing money on, let's say, Devin Singletary props. Triple down on some of these players, these teams that you think you have a good read on. So I'm going to talk about Jalen Hurts and the Eagles a little bit later, but that's another team where I think value is to be had because I feel like I have a relatively good read on that roster. In terms of my MVP picks, I have 3 of them. Josh Allen, the favorite at plus 600. I think we already went over the story ad nauseum there. My next pick for MVP would be Justin Herbert at plus 900. It sounds strange to have this guy have the same odds as Aaron Rodgers, especially with Rodgers coming off 2 MVP campaigns. But the books clearly buy into this public narrative that Justin Herbert is the next guy up. He is the next superstar quarterback. Everything he's done in the last 2 years is the kind of stuff we see from Hall of Fame quarterbacks early in their careers. He is on that Hall of Fame trajectory, and I think the next step for him is to sustain a high level of play over the course of a full NFL season, maybe lead his team to a top 1 or 2 seed, and win the NFL MVP. I want to throw money on him at plus 900 because I think there's value to be had here. I can see the narrative shaping before me almost. I can see the media telling themselves a story of Josh Allen taking that leap and taking this Chargers team to heights it's never really seen since those MVP level Phillip Rivers campaigns of more than a decade ago. Moving on, I have a few long shots I think are worth mentioning, and those are Jalen Hurts at plus 2,500 or 25 to 1, and also Matthew Stafford at 14 to 1. My reason for these 2 picks is because I can tell myself a story, a narrative. I can set one forth as to how each of these guys can win that award. First off, Stafford, defending Super Bowl champion. I can see the Rams going on a revenge tour and kicking the shit out of everyone. This is a roster with a limited window. This is a guy who is going to be in the second year of a McVay offense that they both spoke candidly about sort of struggling to really make work early in the year, sort of getting their footing. And I think those 2 guys working in tandem with a full offseason to really build each other up, to learn from some of their mistakes in the regular season last year. People forget Stafford led the NFL in interceptions last year with 17. I think I can see the narrative taking hold where Stafford and the Rams dominate the NFC, a relatively weak NFC, I think, and Stafford wins that MVP award. Now, Jalen Hurts is a little bit out of left field. I'm not sure that he can actually do this because I'm not sure that Jalen Hurts can actually play quarterback. I think anyone who watched him in the playoffs last year sees what I mean. He's not necessarily the most dominant downfield passer, and that's the most generous thing I can say about him, really, because he struggles to put the ball down the field. He struggles to throw the ball over the middle of the field. He needs to develop as a passer for even to be considered for this award. But what I'm betting on here is that I believe in that Eagles roster and what they've done from a roster construction standpoint. We've seen over the last couple years with guys like Josh Allen, these NFL teams putting their young quarterbacks in a position to succeed, and those quarterbacks sort of taking that jump. The Bills put Josh Allen around Stephon Diggs. They brought in John Brown the year before that and sort of gave him these weapons to really take that leap. And we saw that MVP level leap from these guys. I think this is sort of the craziest of the MVP bets I'll give you. But I think Jalen Hurts is a fun long shot bet, because if the Eagles are better than people expect them to be, if this roster, which many rank among the best in the entire league, ends up being just that, then you can see a narrative taking hold where that quarterback who's leading them to that level of play and maybe to a top 2 seed in the NFC could be getting some MVP hype. Jalen Hurts at MVP at plus 25 to 1 is a bet that I'm taking everywhere.